Well, I might have to switch this. Hear me okay too? All good? Okay. I know this is a jointly noticed session. I'm new to all of you and you're all new to me, except Tammy here and I have had some encounters. So I thought it would be beneficial since we're starting kind of new school year, new sessions. If everybody can just kind of introduce who they are, it would help me, and then we can kind of jump into everything. And since I started chatting, although normally ladies first, I'll start.
It's okay.
My name is Terry Harmon. I am an attorney with Sniffen and Spellman and am serving as Assistant Chief Negotiator, I guess you could say, for SJEA matters.
Good afternoon. I'm Wayne King. I'm the Assistant Superintendent from Human Resources, and I am Chief Negotiator.
Brandon Asplin, Deputy Superintendent for Operations and Lead Negotiator for SJEA. Mike DeGudas, Chief of Staff.
Connors, CFO. In your background. You guys got to speak up back there. Use your teacher voice, Miss Williams.
Counselor.
Cynthia Williams.
All right.
There you go.
Catherine Goodrich, Principal, Valencia Elementary. Jay Williams, Benefits and Salaries. Carter Raymond, Director of Instructional Personnel.
George Masteries, Director for Non-Instructional.
And our different slot play and also.
Mike Baker, Principal Director. Ford Edge, Principal Director. Logan Lowry, Transportation and Incoming Government Relations. Steve Kay, Director of Maintenance.
So on staff, curriculum and instruction.
Yes.
Just hidden.
For both. Secretary for both.
All right, and I am Morgan Mousley, the lead negotiator, as well as a teacher at Tokoi Creek High School.
Tammy Whitaker with the Florida Education Association and Chief Negotiator for SJEA.
Jennifer Jurek, teacher at Crookshank Elementary.
Zach Reedy, custodian at LCL Elementary and Vice President of the.
I'm Jessica Schott. I'm the head of physics at Pedro Menendez High School.
Sharmina Rakowski, SJEA President, Food Service Worker at East High School.
Sally
sorry.
Cunningham.
That's okay.
Sally Cunningham, fifth grade teacher at Hartley Elementary School.
Computer operator at First College. I'm Megan Young. I'm the second vice president of SJEA, and I also teach English and I do a seminar and a new intro to the teaching profession at Tokoi Creek.
Kate Dowdy, I'm first vice president for SJEA teacher on assignment.
Michelle Dillon, union president.
All right, I think that's everybody.
Okay, so I think I know we've got our agenda here that we're following, but I think we were going to start with Ms. Saunders giving an overview of the budget, if that's okay.
Yeah.
You want to do an open comment?
I think we can do it after her presentation.
Okay, perfect.
Either way is fine.
I'm good with after, that's fine.
Make sure you all got it.
You need two.
We got extras. You need some.
Yes.
Right, I'll need that.
And this is.
Could you mic up for us, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Gretchen. You have such a nice soft voice. It's hard to hear you. Plus, we have to have our audience people online who can hear.
I'm gonna carry it.
Okay. So today we're going to walk through what happened with the 2023 legislative session and compare it to the first calculation of the Florida Education Finance Program what's called the final conference report or the first calculation. Some of the things we're going to cover today, like I said, the 2022-2023 FEFP fourth calculation, the legislative session highlights, the 23-24 final conference report or first calculation, give an overall budget picture, and then our overall financial condition. First, we're going to go back and we received the Florida Education Finance Program fourth calculation in April. And that is what you'll see here in the first column, and it's shaded in with a box. So we're going to walk through those, and I know we have a lot of new faces here. Maybe some people aren't familiar with the Florida Education Finance Program. So we're just going to take it line by line, and the unweighted FTE is actually a student account. So I lovingly refer to it as cheeks in the seat. So on the fourth calculation of last year, we had FTE of 50,414 students. When you take those students and you multiply them by their program rates, we actually have weighted FTE, full-time equivalent, of 56,119. I'm just going to round up so we don't have no public time. The school taxable value last year was $45.6 billion. Our required local effort millage and our .748 discretionary millage gave us a total millage of 3.983. This is only for the general fund, does not include capital. And then our base student allocation last year, and this is statewide, was $4,587.40. Again, following this fourth calculation column, our weighted students, or our weighted FTE, is multiplied by our base student allocation, and then it's multiplied by last year, it was the district cost differential, and this is named for the new year, but that base funding was $258 million. Now there's add-ons on top of that. So when we start looking at the line 11, the teacher salary increase allocation, which these dollars were allocated for these named programs, and they can only be used for those programs. So teacher salary increase allocation, or TSIA, came in at $13.6 million. Our discretionary millage compression was $3.5 million. We received dollars from the TJJ supplemental allocation of $82,184. We had supplemental academic instruction funding of little over $10 million. Our ESE guarantee allocation of 16.5, our mental health assistance allocation, 2.3 million, safe schools allocation, 2.8 million, student transportation, 14.6 million. We received a small amount for our funding compression and hold harmless, 901,000. Our instruction material allocation or textbooks came in at 4.4 million. Our reading allocation at 2.8, and our teacher classroom supply assistance at $927,300. So when you just look at the FEFP, or the Florida Education Finance Program for the fourth calculation, we received $330,898,409. What we had to generate locally for taxes was $141,800,788. One thing I want to point out, and the reason I want to do this now, is as we're going to do a comparison between the fourth calculation and the first calculation, and you'll notice some differences. This is the first time in the 50-year history of the FEFP has something happened so dramatically as this. So you'll see the highlights. It's line 11, 19, 20, 21, and 22. In the fourth calculation, these were split apart. So like I said, these dollars were provided to school districts for a certain reason. What you'll see in the first calculation is these dollar amounts are now put in the base. They were moved to the base. However, school districts still have to abide by the mandates. So if we were given last year textbook money of $4.4 million, we have to provide for textbooks. We have to provide a letter to the Department of Education July 1st saying we know we are following our textbooks, and we provide free to our students. So this is just to say, when you see it, when we come further, these are going to be zero, and that's why that dollar amount is so large, significant increase. But again, remember, the mandates for those programs still hold tight. Take that. So our gross state, we didn't have any funds withheld for the first calculation. So our net state money coming to our county is 189 million. To break out the categoricals, what they consider true categoricals, we have our class size reduction allocation of 49.8 million. So our total state funding, FEFP plus the categorical class size came in at 238.9 million. The local funding, like I said, we generated on the required local effort 141,800,000. Our discretionary local effort came in at 32.7, so we had total local funding of 174.5 million. Those two, state and local together, gave us 413,534,000. A lot of times we get questioned, well, how does that break out? How do you break out the state and the local dollars? Well, you'll see, overall, we received $8,202 per student per unweighted FTE, and the breakdown is $4,700 per state dollars, $3,400 per local dollars, and then you can see the percentages, 57.78% came from the state, 42.22% from the local. Now, we have the new FEFP. And what changed from last year to this year? In the fourth calculation, we already said the base student allocation was $4,500, $4,587.40. The new school year brought with us $5,139.73, and the difference was it grew $552.33, or an increase of 12.04%. So what did that do statewide for total state and local funds? Well, last year we had funds of $8,243. This new year, we're statewide $8,648. Well, that's an increase of $404.67, or 4.91%. And again, you can see last year we had more state money funding our student expense or our revenue, and it was local funds were 44. You can see this year it's more the dollar going down from state and higher in local. And what were some of the other things that affected us? So our required local effort. Now remember, this was based on the first calculation. So at this time, the required local effort was only down 0.003. We actually ended up having, as of the second calculation, when the property appraiser certified the tax roll, there's actually a decrease by 0.073. We already talked about our base student allocation increasing $552.38. But what were some of the other restructuring in the FEFP? This was the first time we have ever seen an increase in statewide numbers for students. We had 117,372 on the books, and that again based on the universal voucher, family empowerment scholarships, and our home schoolers being counted now in the FEFP. Another change was the district cost differential is now the comparable wage factor. The supplemental academic instruction categorical, or SAI, is now the educational enrichment allocation. The teacher salary increase allocation, or the TSIA, is now the classroom teacher and other instructional personnel salary increase. We now have a state-funded discretionary supplement, and as we spoke of before, the reading allocation, textbooks, and teacher classroom supply are just a few that are now built into the base funding. They don't have a separate category. One of the things that we did see was the change that was formerly known as TSIA, had a $252.8 million increase statewide. So before, school districts had set aside money that they were using for the teacher increases. This year, because the money went up into the base funding, the calculation is different. So you have to multiply your base funding times 4.52%, and we'll go through it as we get into further slides. I have it broken down. And that is to maintain your salary, your teacher salary increases that you've given in prior years. The new bucket is the one that's given to districts at 1.41% of the district-based FEFP funding. And that's for your new teachers. That's for a school district that might not have gotten their beginning teacher salary up to $47,500. They have to work their way up to that, or they can give it for raises. What also happened was, by amending this item, it really provides flexibility for school districts and charter schools to use their funds once they've satisfied the beginning teacher increase, and also removes the amount of reporting requirements. The reporting requirements for this program, it was a lot. So we were very happy when we saw this happen, because it was such detail. Every school district in the state was having to report this in an Excel spreadsheet. And it was just very, very difficult to follow. So now we're going to come down to St. Johns County. And we're going to follow the first calculation of the final conference report. And the numbers are going to vary. So that's why I really want you to follow me here. So our unweighted FTE, or our cheats in the seats, last year went from 50,414 to 54,145 students. That's a difference of 3,731. And a lot of people, their eyes were just, wow, you're really growing a lot. But remember, a lot of that growth, or at least 850 more students, were projected to be in the Family Empowerment Scholarship. We did not have the information to come up with this. The Department of Education provided each school district with those numbers. So last year, we had Family Empowerment Scholarship students of 1,769. This new year, we're projected to have 2,619. And why such a variation? Well, parents have the ability, the choice to apply to get a scholarship, but until school starts, they could go either way. So we have to actually, we don't know if the numbers are double counted, but it's up to the parents to decide if they want to actually stay or take a scholarship and go. And so our numbers are so important. Again, with our weighted numbers, those are our students multiplied by their program weights. So our numbers went from 56,000 in weighted FTE to 59,900. Our school taxable value, based on property taxes, went to 52.4 billion, or an increase of 6.7 billion. Again, we just talked about millage rates. And the reason we set it up this way is if you walked away and you went to the Florida Education Finance or the Florida Department of Education website and you follow the calculations, these are actually the line by line. You can track the numbers. Anybody can. But that's why we wanted to present it this way. Again, we talked about the base student application going from 44,587 to 5,139 per student, for the increase of $550. And I just had made a note on here for the base student allocation that it was increased from already allocated dollars. So the dollars were already there. They moved it out of the categoricals into the base. So this is why it's so important. We cannot spend that money twice. Again, we're going to follow through. So our weighted FTE, our students in their program weights, multiplied by the base student allocation, multiplied by the comparable wage factor, provides us with $308,333,945. But remember, you're going to see zeros, or you're not going to see anything in a couple of categories because those dollars were moved up. Although remember, we still have to, there's mandates that go with those dollars we have to provide for. So teacher salary increase allocation, zero, it's in the above number. The 0.748 mils is left out, the DJJ, which went down. it went down almost $30,000, so we received $52,248 for our Department of Juvenile Justice supplement allocation. Our, what was formerly known as the, it's now the educational enrichment allocation for supplemental academic instruction category went up $2 million. Again, we're in growth mode. Our ESC guaranteed allocation went up $7.2 million to $23.7 million. We have a lot of ESC students in our district. Our mental health assistance allocation went up to $2.8 million. Our state schools allocation went up to $3.4 million. Student transportation went up to $15.2 million. And then numbers 19 through 22 are zero because those went up to base. So as you can see, our total FEFP, when you compare it to last year to this year, went up $39.3 million. Again, required local effort for the taxes again went up what we had to generate. Even though our millage rate is down, you can see just by the property values went up significantly. One more thing I was going to bring up. There are two more categories of money that sit outside of the FEFP. The first one is school recognition money. School recognition money used to be a part of the FEFP, and that's when if your school was graded an A or it improved a letter grade in the previous year based on testing. The school recognition dollars now sit outside of the FEFP. And last October in St. Johns County, we received $7.1 million for those schools that generated it, and it went out through the regular means. But again, that was in October, and it was based on the prior year. The other bucket of money that the legislative session set aside this year is called the Educational Enrollment Stabilization Program. Now, this is $350 million set aside for school districts and charter schools to help them maintain their financial stability as a result of changes in student enrollment. So they put that little bucket out there just in case more districts had parents taking advantage of the family college scholarships. So again, when they looked at those numbers and they said, St. Johns County, you're going to grow 850 students in your family common scholarships. If we go up, they haven't funded us for it. They put a bucket that's set aside to be funded from them.
I get the name of that one more time. Educational
Enrollment Stabilization Program.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It is $350 million. So again, we're going to focus right here on the first calculation of the final conference report. Our net state FEFP went up $18.4 million to $207 million. We had our class size reduction allocation. It came down slightly, but still $49 million. We have a new line item, the state-funded discretionary supplement. So the state-funded discretionary supplement is a little over $5 million, and the purpose of this fund, the purpose is to fund the non-voted discretionary millage for students that were awarded the Family Empowerment Scholarship. So if you take our numbers of students that are estimated to be in the Family Empowerment Scholarship category, it's $25 million. This is the offset of, this is really an offset of $5 million. So actually for St. Johns County, we're projected to be taking away $20 million for Family Empowerment Scholarships based on their numbers. And there was precedent set for this because the lab schools in the state of Florida and the Florida Virtual School had already received dollars in previous years. This was never given to school districts, just to the lab schools and the Florida Virtual School. So when we look at total state funding, of $261,953,401. And then we see local funding, and then we see both state and local funding totaling $462,222,613, or an increase of $48,688,527. So an increase from last year to this year of 11.77%. I want you to remember that number. Okay. So again, just a breakdown so you can see what the increase was on state dollars versus local dollars, and then the total dollars per unweighted FTE. We went last year from $8,200 to $85, and then you can see the breakdown for state funds and local fund percentages. Again, we just talked about that. So this year, we're going to have more dollars coming from local funds than state funds. And this is where I just wanted to show what does the true picture of $48,688,527 equal. So again, our line number 1 is the new increase in revenue. Line number 2 has to begin with what is the growth in our district and how do we come up with this money? Because now we have this new money coming in, but we have to account for it. So just for St. John's County, for our county, that doesn't include the Fairhaven Common Scholarship, we're projecting 2,881 students, or FTE. When you multiply that by the base student allocation and the comparable wage factor, that means right off the top, we have to take off 14.7 million in growth. They gave us money in growth, we have to take that off on growth. That's got to cover classrooms, supplies, materials, staffing. Line number 3 is the growth in the Family Empowerment Scholarship Program. Last year we had 1,700. This year we grew 850. Those dollars are just coming in and they're going out. They don't even reach our books. They're taking that money away from us. We don't have to pay anybody. The state takes care of it, but that's $850 or 850 students in the growth of 7,794, which is the average scholarship amount in St. Johns County. So that's 6.6 million that comes off the top. Line number 4 is the old teacher salary increase allocation. Remember we spoke about they put it into the base, which is how we did receive $48 million, but now it's got to come out because we can't spend it twice. So this is the maintenance of the TSIA, or 4.52% of the base. So $308,333,945 times the 4.52%, and the legislature came up with these percentages, we didn't. 13.9 million has to come off the top because those are salaries we provided for our teachers. That's recurring costs. The next ones, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is an increase in revenue over last year. So we have to take that out because transportation dollars are given to us to only be used for transportation. So we received an additional $575,582 that has to come off the top. Mental health of $495,307. Our state school funding revenue increased $678,266. Our ESE guarantee increase went up $7.2 million in revenue. That has to come off the top. And what was formerly the SAI, or the Supplemental Academic Instruction Categorical, or the EEA, Educational Enrichment Allocation of $2 million, so that comes off. So what started out really great at line 1 of $48.6 million, once we take all of the mandates and requirements off the table, we're at $2.3 million. So that $2.3 million carries over to the top of the next page. And again, remember, they moved some categories up into the base funding. That has to come off. We still have to provide for textbooks. we don't have a dollar amount, they didn't set aside anything more, so we have to go back to last year's fourth calculation in the spring. And if you go back and look at the FEFP fourth calculation for St. Johns County, there will be textbook money sitting there of $4.4 million that has to come off. Same thing with the reading instruction categorical, that's $2.8 million that has to come off. The teacher classroom supply allocation, we're still mandated to provide those to the teachers. That was $927,300. The funding compression and hold harmless, that was rolled up into the base. That comes off. And here is the classroom teacher and other instructional personnel increase of 1.41%. This is for the growth. That also has to come off because we have to provide it for our teachers. So just the yellow highlights equal 13.9 million. Remember, we only had 2.3 million to roll over. We're going to take off another 13.9, and that's before we get to any of our operating expenses. So we have a couple categories for operating expenses. We belong to the Florida School Board's Insurance Trust. And with this is a group of school districts, and we pulled our resources together to cover our property and casualty insurance. And our renewal increase this year is up 2.8 million, mostly due to Hurricane Ian and Nicole in this last fall. Our student transportation expenses, the 3-year average increase of expenses year over year is 2.4 million. Our youth resource contracts and the dollars we have provided to charter schools for our safe school allocation increased 728,364. And then you'll say, but wait a minute, you already took it off on the front. That was the increase in revenue. This is the increase in expenses. We have our teacher classroom supply allocation. What last year was $298 per teacher is now $300 this year. And we have 100 new teachers, so we have to account for that. We have the medical insurance with the school board portion increase of $590,000. We have our utilities of electric, water, sewer, and irrigation. A 3-year trend is a 13.03% increase annually. The Florida retirement system had a rate increase that began July 1st, and that went up 1.66%, and our portion of that is about 4.7 million. And then one of the board policies are our committed fund balance reserve requirements. We have to have 3% of our revenue, so that's 1.7 million, which brings us to carry forward less known expenditure increases at this point. So right now, we are negative $25,949,017. Remember, we started at a positive 48. But that's how the FEFP was written
Cannot read
this
those
last
even up there.
spring.
Is there any way you can make that screen bigger? Because the paper copy is like teeny, teeny, teeny. Even with my little magnifier thing, I can't see it.
If you take 2 fingers, touch it, and spread them apart, it will enlarge, and you can do like maybe the top and then the bottom. This can be tricky though, so. Teacher trick.
I don't know, well,
That's okay, you can start, and then we can just move to left and right.
oh boy,
That's good, right there's perfect. That's perfect.
I can just do this, okay.
That's perfect, thank you.
So, general fund, now tomorrow officially, our books close tomorrow, Tuesday, August 8th. These are our projected numbers. You can track these to the tentative budget that we just presented last week to the school board. But our general fund balance, and we've got multiple years on here. We started with 2016, and we go further back than that. But 2016, 15, 16, all the way across to 22, 23. Again, this is an tentative budget. The fund balance is broken down into certain categories. And I'm going to name those categories, and I'm going to walk through what the balances are remaining in those categories that we have tentatively projected for June 30th, 2023. So the first category, that first line, is what's non-spendable. This is inventory and any prepaid amounts that we have, such as textbooks. How much do we have in textbook for inventory? Fuel. How much do we have fuel for the school buses on hand? The prepaid amounts, school districts have to order textbooks in the spring in order to get the volume of textbooks coming in time for school to start. So we always have to order in the spring for the next school year. That's a prepaid item. You cannot convert that to cash. So that first line is non-spendable. The second line item, the second line, which is 2.4 million, is our restricted items. Those are for dollars set aside that are considered categorical, such as mental health allocation. We have dollars remaining in the mental health allocation because, again, the contracts we had out, other companies had a problem finding people. Dollars left over because they couldn't hire enough people to cover our contract. So the mental health allocation, we had full service schools, any state required carryover programs, vocational rehab, they have dollars left over, they have to be set aside for that. The third line is committed, and that's $13.8 million. This is for our district's established economic stabilization line. So it's based off the first calculation and it's 3% of our revenues. Under assigned, our assigned line is 17.2 million. And these are for school programs and services such as if the school generated or student generated dollars, the advanced placement program, the ID program, anything, daycare programs, like I said, anything that the student and school generated, those dollars stay at the school and FCTC fund balance. Our unassigned line is $126,500, and that's the category where it doesn't fit in the top categories, it's placed there. So our total fund balance projected as of June 30th, 2023 is $36,063,793, which is a decrease in fund balance from last year of $12.1 million. So last year, June 30th, 2022, we ended the year and we dipped into fund balance $20.3 million. We dropped another $12 million this year. So our financial condition ratio last year was 7.63, 7.7%. It's now at 4%. And again, this is just gives you a graphical presentation of what the numbers look like. By color, spendable, restricted, committed, assigned, but as you can see, everything is either everything going down or barely straight across. And one of the last slides that we'd like to present is a comparison back on the 2010, 2011 budget, state budget versus the state budget today. And what does the state education trends look like? So we have two charts, and in that year, in the 2010-11 school year, the state education budget, or the state budget was $70.4 billion. This last year, it was $117 billion, or an increase in $46.6 billion. The education portion, way back when, was $22.5 billion, or 32% of the total budget. This year, it's $30.3 billion, but it's only 26% of the total budget. And just an interesting aside, I went back and looked up the number of students in K-12 education back in 2010, 2011, and we had 2.6 million, and this year we have 3.1 million. So it's an increase of approximately 450,000 students. Just something to try and wrap your head around to see what has really changed in education and state funds. Our portion of the pie went down, although the money went up, but property values have gone up in the state. A lot of information.
You don't have to turn it off, right?
Can't get away with that. Thank you.
Before we jump into the MOUs, did you say you had some statements you wanted to make before?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or us unmute.
Is this better? Can't even tell. My voice usually booms and it echoes. I can't
Yeah.
tell. I can just be loud.
On the top?
I'll be loud. Is that okay? So I think before we had jumped into the finances, I think I jumped ahead and you maybe had some opening comments you wanted to make.
Yes. So teachers are not in the profession to become rich. I think we all know that. But we are trying to earn a livable wage in a society that keeps giving us less and less respect, yet more and more responsibilities. This is a problem in the field of education in general. St. Johns County traditionally enjoyed a low teacher turnover rate. However, we are currently struggling to maintain that status quo. We understand that state law has not been favorable, particularly for experienced teachers. However, locally, we need to be proactive by figuring out ways to fix the low morale for teachers who have decided to stay in this arduous profession while also recruiting teachers. Teachers want to be shown appreciation for keeping St. John's as a top school district for many years. They want this appreciation to be shown in two very basic ways, which you will see reflected in the items that we're asking for this year at the bargaining table. Trust us to be the professionals that we are and pay us the wage that we deserve. Our purpose at this year's negotiations should be to look for ways that we can improve morale and show teachers that they are a priority. I look forward to seeing our teams work together to make this happen. So that's kind of our purpose there is.
I think to add on to that too,
Yes.
and can you hear me now? Okay. I think we express the same sentiment. I think any concern that the members of the team sitting behind me don't appreciate and value the teachers, there's just not support for that. There's an extreme value placed on them. I know that in talking to the team members behind me and kind of preparing into coming into this new session, again, I'm new to this team, was to try to work together on moving through bargaining this time and to show that appreciation that I think has always been there. And so I think we're interested to hear what issues you may have to bring. I don't think at this time we've got anything that we were going to present today other than some MOUs.
Okay.
I think both SJESPA and SJEA. But again, I think we're hoping to have some positive momentum as well going into this session.
Perfect.
I don't know if you want to add anything.
You want me to pass these now?
Sure.
Okay, so, and Dr. Aspel will do the non-instruct. So this is what we had talked about. This is teachers providing emergency class coverage.
Okay.
So it is the same as the MOU last year. So I think our intent was to try to get this in place as quickly as possible with the onset of school beginning on Thursday. So there aren't any changes that we had for this year. So if you want to have a look at that, I have copies for your teams.
Okay. So we surveyed our teachers, and overwhelmingly it came back that our instructional personnel feel like deans, ILCs, testing coordinators, all of those people who are not actually in the classroom deserve to be part of this MOU. And so we would like to see them included. And I know that in the past, it has been stated that they are considered in leadership positions, but ultimately they're being taken out of their role in order to support students. And so the work that they cannot get done while they are covering a class, they then have to make up somewhere else. And if they don't make that time up, then students are suffering, right? Like that's the general consensus. So our instructional personnel want these people included in this MOU.
So there's item 6 covered?
So you said you didn't change it.
I didn't.
Okay.
It was in there last year.
So can we have copies for the rest of the team to look at and then?
I think I'm totally
They didn't get a handout to be able to. Maybe. Okay. Thank you.
So as I understand it, 5 is saying that all of the above will be paid. And 6 is that the coverage will be rotated equitably, but they're not being included in the payment portion.
So you're saying you want them paid all ILC's testing and who else?
Deans, anyone that's considered instructional personnel should be included in this MOU.
Right.
Guidance
So
counselors.
from an instructor's viewpoint, the instructors get a planning period during the day.
Mhm.
Do the deans and ILCs get a planning period?
They do not.
Do they have a
that I know
caseload?
of.
Do they have a caseload?
Yes. What do you mean by
Caseload of students?
Oh, I mean, they're supporting every student in the school.
But they don't have a planning period necessarily, so they are free to be a little bit more for support for teachers.
Yes, but again, you have to consider if they are working all hours of the day aside from their lunch, right, to help in any way that's needed in the school. So if they are pulled for an hour, that's an hour out of their day that they are not able to see students or go over testing scores or plan for testing or whatever it is that they're
training.
fine. Yeah, I mean, they're not doing their job, which ultimately, like, we're doing this so that yes, teachers are getting paid, but also so that students have a person in the classroom and they're not getting sent to an auditorium, right?
So you said overwhelmingly that was the feedback?
Mhm.
What kind of data do you have?
I do not have it on hand, but I can give it to you at caucus. I can pull it up for you. Unless I. Oh, yes, I have. I do not. I would have to know how many deans, ILCs, testing coordinators, and all that we have. It's 59% believe that non-classroom instructional employees should be included. And the other percentage is 19 saying that they should not, but the rest are unsure.
Go ahead, Ms. Rowe.
So we paid. So
They did get
anybody
paid.
that, they did. So anybody, I actually researched this when Wayne came to me and kind of said, hey, they want to talk about beans. And I said, they're number 6 of the MOU. So we went back and we pulled the list. And anyone that fell within non-classroom teacher, whether they were a guidance counselor, a dean, a media specialist, and were pulled into a classroom, if they were actually reported by the school, they got paid. And we had about 40 individuals who were paid, some of them multiple pay periods, multiple times.
Okay. And I'm sorry.
Tied to a vacancy. Tied to a vacancy.
Approved based upon the process we use for every other classroom teacher, any other, I guess, bargaining member.
Okay. And then can you tell me which number they were, because the media specialists and the elementary school teachers were getting paid a little bit differently than, because of, if students were being placed into their classrooms, they were getting paid at their hourly rate. So did they fall under that category, or did they fall under the middle school and high school level classroom teachers?
So let us look at that.
Okay.
I'll be just pull up
Okay.
a report to take a look at that. I will tell you, we paid them, payroll would have paid them based upon the way it was reported on the spreadsheet that was supposed to be turned in.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I will let you know is that my payroll supervisor and the IT department are working hopefully to get an easier way to do this.
Mhm.
And so what they're looking for is a way for the teacher to put it in on employee online. So the teacher holds some accountability. It goes through a workflow process. The principal will approve it. It will go to the substitute specialist. She will confirm the vacancy, and then it will go to payroll, and they will pay them based upon every pay period. It's in the testing system, but I wanted you to know we are trying to find a way to make it a little easier for everybody.
Wonderful. Okay.
And there aren't deans that are elementaries.
Yes.
Just
Okay. I'm going to hold on this because this is part of our article that we're presenting today. So I don't know if you want us to present that, and then did you have something else to present us?
Yes.
Okay.
I know I have Brennan. It's the same, right? For
SJEA,
non-instructional.
yes. Again, I'm Brennan Asplin, Deputy Superintendent for Operations, back here, new again. It's great to be here with everybody in negotiations. I do want to say, Gretchen, you did a phenomenal job. Mike's always done a really good job. That was really good. And thank you for that today. And Kathy, coming back and seeing you again and knowing how much you've worked and how hard you worked in negotiations, hats off to you. You've done a fantastic job. This is an MOU. There's two of them actually that you had last year. And as everybody knows, in the contract stays. If you don't agree on the contract, it goes into the next year. But with an MOU, it sunsets each year. These two MOUs sunsetted in June, but we want to continue them. And one is the critical temporary support positions, right? And the other one is the emergency substitute coverage at FCTC. Hopefully, since these are continuations and there's not any substantive changes, we can sign off on these tonight. I don't believe you'd have to ratify them because they're just a continuation of the same. We could get them on the board packet for tomorrow, approve them, and retro back to July 1 in case anybody has worked these. And then we have these through the year. And then at some point, if we need to talk about them again, we could bring them back up for going into the future and negotiate that. But I wanted to pass both these over to you, and then hopefully we can move these forward.
I do know that there were some folks that were denied to work critical shortage because they said there was no MOU. So we did have some folks that I think were disenfranchised this summer because they said the MOU wasn't there, so they didn't get the work. And so, thank you. So I know there's nothing we can do about that, but in the future, I'd hope that we bring this sooner before the MOU expires, or we look to put this straight into the contract. Because my guess is this is going to be an issue moving forward, no matter what. Continuing to have an MOU year after year after year after year after year, and we've had this now several times. I'm okay with that. I mean, Brennan and I had already an agreement on the critical shortage portion of that one. It's good for people. I wish that would have had it signed so people could have started working in July. I know that happened at Nice. Shar said there were some folks that were denied to do the work. So that was a little concerning. I'll talk with the team about the emergency substitute coverage.
I think we both just need to keep our eye on that and remind each other when we're getting closer, when we're getting to the end of the year in May, are there any MOUs out there? Because they usually do end around June 30th.
Right.
What are they? Where are they? What do they look like? Oh, yes, I remember that one. Let's get that moved forward.
I get my question would be, especially on this one for SJECSD on their behalf, would the district be willing to just roll this into the contract under compensation?
I think right now it's best as an MOU because we might not need it forever.
Right.
And as things are better and we don't need it, that's the whole idea about an MOU sunsetting. So I would say go a little bit longer. Let's see what that looks like. And then, if we need to talk about that later, then we can talk about that later.
All right. I'll talk to the team. Okay. 3 of our team members are here. So.
Is that all you guys had to pass? Okay. So we're going to pass Article 6, professional employee working conditions.
I was laughing at him stealing my paper, not
Aw.
employee working.
Yeah, that's good though.
No, he stole my paper. I was smirking at
I
it.
just told you guys to get
Wayne.
checked
I
off.
guess that would be a very bad start. I did not smirk at that.
Oh, no. Terry, I know you better than that.
You did.
So you said we're both in agreement on improving teacher morale. And a big aspect of that is teachers feeling like they're being trusted as professionals, because we are professionals. But also when we did the survey, there was a lot on planning time and PLCs. So we'll get to that and talk on that in a minute. So in letter C, we are just wanting to get rid of the effort. Every effort will be made to schedule a lunch period during the time the cafeteria is serving lunch, and just say that needs to happen for teachers because many teachers do buy lunch on campus. So we're just getting rid of that. For E, we just simplified the language, and it was a little bit outdated with intercoms and telephone systems. So there's really no change in meaning. We just changed it to simplify to say both parties agree that for the efficient operation of the school, it is necessary for interruptions during instructional periods to be made from time to time. Principals will be advised to keep interruptions from maintenance, custodial, and intercom to a minimum. Again, there's really no change in meaning. We just simplified it. Okay, in letter K, this is talking about utilizing employees in activities relating to accreditation or minimal education standards required by law, providing appropriate in-service points will be earned by the professional employee involved in these professional activities. And then we're adding that it is during the professional employee's regular work hours. Employees should not be having to use their own time to do that unless you guys are willing to compensate them for that. And then R is kind of where most of the big changes. Oh, sorry, I missed that. I was looking for red. In L, again, we're getting rid of that administration will make every effort to avoid inequitable assignments. And let's just say that they are going to avoid making inequitable assignments of supervisory duties. And that's really the only change there. Now you're going to see in R, is everyone with me? Am I going too fast? Okay.
All good.
You're going to see in R that we crossed out a lot. And you kind of, I'm going to start where we didn't cross out in R, which is both the association and the board recognize that the employee workday is specifically for performing teaching duties and other assigned responsibility. However, then you kind of have to jump down to C, which it just was the way that it formatted. Employees shall be entitled to 180 minutes of flexible time per month during non-instructional time. Prior notice of when flexible time will be taken must be provided to administration along with makeup dates and times. Flex time shall be made within a 2-week time frame. Reasons for the use of flex time shall not be required. So it's kind of taking out all of these like stipulations of it could be a healthcare appointment, it could be to attend a regular meeting, you know, all of these different stipulations, and just trust us that if we need to leave for an appointment of some sort, that we will then make up the hours, and obviously we'll get it approved by administration first. And then we kind of just simplified that next paragraph in C where it used to say, in addition to the above flexibility of professional employee workday, we just said the building principal or supervisor may provide an adjusted workday within the 37.5-hour work week to accommodate the needs of the professional employee or the school system. And we just added the line, any adjusted workday shall be mutually agreed upon by the principal and the employee. We felt like it should, if we're changing somebody's hours, the employee should also have a say in their work hours being changed. And we just got rid of if in their opinion it is justified, because we would hope that a principal is choosing to adjust the employee's workday without, we would hope that it is justified. So we just felt that was redundant. And then
Under the note.
yeah, that is just going with what we came up with in C. So we struck through under 1 above within the outline provisions will be charged leave, and then we struck out under 2 above because we again struck through all of that up there. So that's why that's crossed out. U is where we had a lot of changes, and this was based on our survey of our teachers, where we feel like PLCs and planning time, that line has become blurred for a lot of people, and we want to make that line much clearer. It is true that PLCs are beneficial to many teachers, but there are quite a few schools who the PLC process doesn't necessarily help their overall workload, and it becomes kind of a burden, and then they are losing out on their individual planning time. So we want to make that kind of a clear line. And I can give you some statistics if you want me to say those now or after. Do you want to
continue?
Okay.
I'm following along.
All right. In U, it says planning periods are provided for the purpose of teacher-directed individual instructional planning. So we just Emphasize that again to unblur that line of planning is planning, because professional learning communities are not technically planning. And then in each of the items that talks about elementary teachers having a planning period and middle school teachers and high school teachers, there is that every effort will be made to schedule planning during the student, well, it says during the work day, but we are assuming it was supposed to say during the student day. So we feel that the planning period should occur during the student day. You should have some sort of planning period while the students are on campus. And so we just kind of changed the wording there for 1, 2, and 3. Number 5, this is where we are okay with if teachers in their professional learning community decide that they want to meet during a planning period once a week, then that is up to them. But let's say they decide that they want to meet before school or after school or whenever that, at some schools their extra planning is after school and sometimes it's before. So number 5 is that the principal shall not require instructional staff to attend common planning or professional learning community meetings during their planning period unless it is a decision made by the PLC team. So obviously they need to meet, just you can't require them to meet during their planning period. So they get to decide, trust us to be professionals, and decide when is best for us to meet. And that was the purpose of that. Number 6, this is something that I think has come about recently, is that because of our teacher shortage, we are seeing a lot of people take on extra preps. My friend Megan back here has 4 preps this year. And Jessie Bashada also has 4 preps this year. And it's a lot of extra work, right? It's that much more things, many more tests that we have to plan, that many more lessons that we have to plan. And so we added this instructional staff at the secondary level, grades 6 through 12, shall not be assigned to teach more than 2 course preps, which we clarified what that is. A prep is a course in which the teacher must create an accompaniment of course materials per semester. If the needs of the school require assignments of more than 2, an additional planning period shall be scheduled for the affected instructional staff member. It is requiring extra work on our parts. We need that extra time in order to plan. X, we're just getting rid of that. Every effort will be made to give reasonable notice. Reasonable notice shall be given. I just feel like that is clearer. Z through BB is basically us putting the class coverage MOU into the contract. So instead of any unfilled substitute assignments shall be rotated equitably among professional employees and volunteers shall always be sought. Now we're saying only as a last resort, unfilled substitute assignments be covered by other teachers. These assignments shall be rotated equitably among all professional employees. However, volunteers shall always be sought. And we added the line of instructional staff performing this duty shall be compensated at their hourly rate. AA, so this covers more the elementary and media specialists where students are being placed into classes. And so we use the same rate of pay that is on the MOU for AA. For BB, it is teachers may not be asked to substitute in an absent teacher's class during the designated planning period except in an emergency. Again, we're just adding that line of instructional staff performing this duty shall be compensated at their hourly rate. And again, instructional staff to us means everyone who is considered instructional personnel, which we clarified in the MOU earlier. CC was found in Duval's contract, and we also thought that this was a good increase in morale. There are a lot of new schools in our district who don't have a cushion money for staff parties and those other sorts of things that do increase staff morale. So we added all profits received from vending machines located in the faculty lounge shall be placed in a designated school fund. The faculty may elect a committee to assist the school administration in administrating the school fund. The fund shall not be used for any purpose that would conflict with Florida state law, and it shall be subject to audit by the employer. So we figured you can put a little team of staff together to decide how that money is going to be spent at the end of every year, and maybe it's a staff party, you know, however we wanted to spend it. But again, that's that increase of morale there. And DD, again, falls under trusting us to be professionals. This is a new provision that we're adding. Many districts, Clay County being an example, already do this, where instructional staff shall have the choice to work remotely or at the work site for any planning day throughout the school year, with the exception of pre-planning days. So obviously, we know you expect us to be there for pre-planning to set up our classrooms, but any other planning day throughout the school year, we can have it virtually, or we can go to the school and do that. And I, again, know that Clay County has done that for at least the past 8 years. Any questions?
I do not have any. Do you have any questions?
So 5, go back to 5.
Yeah.
Is that, you see that at a specific level, or is that K-12?
This would be K-12. And I will say that I think there, at the elementary level, it tends to happen more where principals are requiring their teachers to meet in their PLC. It's sometimes more than once per week during their planning time. I think from what I've experienced at the high school level, the principals usually let us kind of choose when we would like to meet with our PLCs. But we intend this for that to happen at all levels.
It's not consistent across the board.
Yeah, it's not
It is
consistent.
Some schools have a lot, some schools.
Some schools, we meet every 3 weeks when we feel it's necessary. You know, I mean,
All right. And on 6, do you have any cost analysis on that or any data on that?
I do not. I would need to know how many teachers have more than 2 preps in order to be able to try and cost that out. So
I can't imagine it would be that horribly expensive.
Cost about adding another planning period.
Well, it wouldn't, yeah, it
well,
wouldn't
because
just be,
then they're not,
it'd be 2.
there's a classroom that then needs.
Or hiring new teachers.
I suppose you could also use CC similar to how you do school recognition funds, where they have a committee who makes decisions on how the school
Right.
recognition funds are distributed. You could do something similar.
Yeah. I mean, to me, CC really benefits the new schools more than anyone, because I know, being at a new school, how hard it is to come up with money in order to be able to do those things with the staff and that sort of thing. So we don't have a ton of AP money stacked up yet. So
Kathy, Gretchen?
I think we just need to go back, take a look at everything.
Yeah,
We don't
caucus.
have anything. Yep.
how long do we want to start with?
One thing while you're looking, Terry, in the event that SJESPA signs, I need to make it very clear that this does not set a precedent that either union is willing to not ratify an MOU, because typically all MOUs should be ratified. However, I understand this is something we have done for the past couple of years, and I do understand we want to get this going. I just don't want it to be a practice and the district comes back and said, well, you allowed SJESPA to do it. And so now, now SJEA, we're holding them to the same standard. So, and it's very expensive. So just because I don't want to bifurcate a contract per se, we're still coming back to negotiate compensation for the non-instructional. It's very expensive for us because all the cost is on us to do ratification, from printing the ballots to getting it out in time and effort. So in the event that happens, I need that to be clear that it is not setting a practice.
I'm glad, and I think we're all glad that you said that tonight, so we can
Okay.
have it on record and be reminded of that, because we don't want that either.
Okay. All right. Okay.
How long? You want to start with 30 minutes and then we can check in?
We'll check in with you
Okay.
after 30.
So let's do 6:45,
That
give us a
works.
couple extra minutes.
More, slide over that.
Terry, if you don't mind, I'll just go ahead and do SJEA for right now.
Yeah.
All right, so we're fine. The only change I had on here is that June 30th. I don't know why you would want to end it May 29th because we do have FCTC folks that work throughout the summer and some of the lab aides might be impacted. So I made it June 30th for the emergency substitute.
I think we were just trying, and I don't remember, but I think we were trying to keep everything exactly the same
Right,
so that you could just sign it and I could just,
correct.
The other one has June 30th.
Oh, the teachers.
Oh, so
The support staff
The
does
critical
not.
short.
Mine does.
Emergency substitute coverage for SJEA does not have June 30th.
For SCTC or which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at emergency substitute coverage.
You guys didn't
At the
pass
top,
CTC.
It says through May 28th.
Right.
It should be through June 30th.
You know, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Oh.
This one says June 30th.
Oh, yeah, I'm not worried about that one.
Yeah, they should be.
Oh, it's this one. But again, I just want it on the record that this does not set a precedent that a memorandum of understanding should always be ratified. But we want these folks to get their back pay if they did do critical shortage. And in the event, we have some issues and don't have subs, hopefully we have enough, but sometimes they don't show up, that in a para is pulled or a lab assistant is pulled, that they are paid. Since these are our lowest paid employees, they deserve to be paid. But it's not set a precedent that I'm just signing an MOU and not ratifying it. Is that clear?
That's clear, and we agree,
Crystal.
and we want what's best for the employees as well, and get the money in their hands as soon as possible.
So those are
So
those
that's
two.
perfect.
If you can sign those, and I'll take one back. I know I had already originally signed the other one, but we'll just do it officially here. Did you need a third one? I know Terry usually likes to have a copy of.
And make sure I heard, you said it's not setting precedent that every MOU needs to be ratified,
No,
or
But
that
I'm-
it doesn't need to be ratified.
correct. Let me rephrase that.
Just.
If I signing an MOU right here, I am not sending it out for ratification until we settle compensation, but I'm going to allow you guys to present it to the board so that the board can say, let's get these people paid. I know that this wants to be presented tomorrow
Yes.
at the board.
And yes.
And if the board says yes,
Yeah.
so it will be ratified by the board before it will be ratified by us.
Meaning
We will ratify it when we settle compensation.
For
Okay.
SJEA.
that's
Yes.
exactly, and
We're not talking-
so,
Only for
SJEA right now.
SJEA.
and then for SJEA,
We will talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just need a copy for myself.
You want one or two? Usually you get two.
I just need one. It's fine.
Sure.
One of each. Oh, there we go. Thank you. I know Terry usually likes copies, but Phyllis, you'll get,
I trust Phyllis.
okay.
Emails
So
just-
we're fine with this. We can move forward on that. And then this will go in our packet once we settle compensation and we'll ratify it together as a whole. But in the future, if there's any new MOUs, and let me just be clear again. If this was something brand spanking new and we've never, ever, ever done this, then I would send this out for ratification
Yes.
because it's not been anything. So I'm agreeable for SJEA. I'm not the chief negotiator for SJEA.
For both memos.
Yes, for both memos for SJEA. I'm good. I'm finished.
You good?
Go ahead.
Okay, I wanted to go back to Article 6 really quick because I think I misspoke on you. I had said that we thought that the employee workday meant the student day, and that is not the case. We understand that the student day is different than the employee workday, and we want to make sure that teachers are getting planning time while students are on campus and they have a time to do what they need to do. So I just wanted to clarify that.
While students are or are not on campus.
Are on campus, yes. Okay.
Yes. Did you want to say anything about, Ms. Whitaker had mentioned, not SJEA will address MOUs?
Yes,
Is there
we were
more to
getting-
that before we jump into this?
You guys had
Just some questions,
feedback.
but I'd
Okay.
rather, if we're on the topic of MOUs, close that book and then we could do that,
Yep.
if that's okay.
So we
with
want
you.
to do the MOU first?
Just to, yeah,
Okay.
if you had any
Yeah.
feedback on it.
Yeah, SJEA is very much wanting to stick with making sure everything gets ratified by its members before we present anything to the board. So we are amenable to this MOU, but understand that it does still need to be ratified, and we'll have to kind of do a retroactive pay situation. So let me give you the changes that we made. And I know, Wayne, we had discussed adding it to number 3, but then when we got back in here to look at number 3, it does say that they're assigned to substitute during their designated planning period, and that group of instructional personnel doesn't have a planning period. So we just made number 5 to say deans, ILCs, testing coordinators, school counselors, and other non-classroom personnel. It should say who cover classes. Sorry. No. Just get rid of the 2. No, sorry, I was doing this quickly.
When deans, ILCs, testing coordinators, school counselors.
So sorry. Yes, just add a when to the beginning. When deans, ILCs, testing coordinators, school counselors, and other non-classroom personnel cover classes. No, that doesn't work. This is what happens when you try and throw them together. Okay, but basically, if they are assigned to substitute, they shall be paid as designated in number 2 above, because they're not necessarily covering during a planning period. I know that there have been some deans or ILCs who have maybe had to cover for half the day or cover for a full day. So we figure that they fell better under number 2 than just paying them at their hourly rate for the 1 hour that they're there. If that makes sense. And then we just moved the part about them, instructional personnel who have covered classrooms and met steps 2, 3, or 4 since August 10th, which was originally number 5. We just moved that to the end because we felt that that was a better placement for it, but we didn't change anything. And then I do want to point out number 4. It's been brought to our attention that there are associate teachers who take on the responsibility of lead teacher due to the absence of the lead teacher in their assigned classroom. But there are also associate teachers who are pulled to cover for another teacher that might not be their lead teacher that should get paid if they are pulled from their associate teacher position, right? If they're covering for their lead teacher or they're covering for another teacher, we wanted to make sure that they were covered under that. So we just added or another classroom. And if that's an issue, then maybe we just clarify number 4 in some way, but there are teachers who are not getting paid, associate teachers who are not getting paid for covering another teacher's classroom. So we just wanted to clarify that. But everything else is the same.
At least we've been told that was the case.
Yes.
Michelle said she had some situations where ATs were not. So
Again, well, and here's what I would say. Payroll was at the, they didn't scrub the data when it was received.
Mhm.
So based upon whatever was submitted by the school, they uploaded and put it in. So if school A granted the associate teacher the money and it wasn't actually their classroom, nobody was checking those, and so they got paid. If the principal knew the MOU and followed the MOU, so this will fix.
We'll clarify, yeah. That was the whole purpose.
That's
Yeah.
definitely not something.
Okay.
that we
And then
not-
just,
not-
Right, yeah.
so we did pull numbers with the language from last year that would have shown that counselors, there were 8.
Okay.
Media specialists also 8, reading 8, deans 10, other teachers on assignment. So we did, as Kathy said, if they submit it, we did honor it.
That's
To the
wonderful.
spirit of it, so.
We're very happy to hear that.
And those
Yes.
are 10 individuals, not
Right.
just 10.
10 separate individuals.
So if it was
Right.
3 minutes, 10, it's
That makes sense.
That's awesome.
So can I just clarify then, the changes here would be the associate teacher piece.
Mhm.
Number 5 should say deans, ILC, testing coordinators, school counselors, and other non-classroom personnel who are assigned to substitute shall be paid. So take out 2 cover classes.
Yes,
Is that-
that fixes it.
Okay.
And you don't need one. There we go. I don't know why I couldn't figure that out.
And then they'll be paid in accordance with 2,
According to 2.
not 3.
Yep. Is Dawn back there, Dawn? Give her that language? Are you good with the language?
I was actually thinking if you separated 6 and 7, Are you keeping the language about VE teachers?
Yeah, we
Yes.
put that in a separate number.
You did say
Yes.
it already? Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah,
I'm
sorry. You don't have a copy?
No.
Sorry.
No.
Yeah, so, so 6 now is just about the VE teachers, and then,
5 is just about
Yeah.
non-instructional or non-classroom instructional personnel. Yes.
okay, so talk to me about your process, then you said it needs to be ratified.
It needs to
So
be
we-
ratified.
So we in the same place where Tammy is, that we'll sign it,
Mhm.
and then we'll present it to the board, or you're holding?
Yeah, it cannot be presented to the board until it's ratified by our teachers.
Well, I mean, so typically, I mean, the board could ratify the whole document, but I don't think they want to ratify pieces either. So their position is a little bit different. SJEA's position is they want to ratify the whole package together.
You mean
So,
everything in the
Everything
bargaining,
and everything that's, yes,
so
so-
nothing will get
correct.
finalized in any of the sessions
Correct.
until the very end.
So essentially, people are still going to be tracking when they're covering, right? They're still going to be able to cover. They're still going to be tracking that. It's just that the payment piece won't be able to happen until it is ratified.
So, and I think, and others can speak, I think our position would be, we want to reward those teachers who are giving their planning periods
Yes.
now, and then with a new process that payroll have come up with, that this could be done every 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
which speaks to your opening piece about morale as well, that we are given, we recognize you're subbing in a class.
Right.
So that's, and again, I understand your position that you don't want this to start precedent moving forward, but we're trying to kick it off to say that we know this is happening and we want to do it, and we want to do it bi-monthly.
Right. And that can happen once it is ratified, but until then, we kind of have to go with how we've always done it, where
It's not always, as of last year, and we started the process with the St. John's Tech. St. John's Tech, which I think we've had some discussions about, that was sent out for ratification. And so now, I mean, everything that my organization, FEA, my bosses say is that every MOU should be ratified no matter what. Now, if the district wants to pay to send this out to be ratified, we'll be happy, but we're under some major financial constraints as it is as well as a union, and we don't have the funding to be able to send out and necessarily bifurcate the contract. And yes, we have in the past, but we stopped doing that last year.
Okay. I mean, look, again, just understanding as I'm talking through it with you that it just may be, I mean, depending on how long bargaining goes, obviously we all hope it goes fast. That's the goal, right? But if it's 2-3 months down the line, you're saying even just the whole bargaining season in general must be closed out for anything to go. That's what it sounds like. And I'm just making sure I understand, because if along the way, you know, we come up with MOUs all the time at sessions where we maybe notice a gap in something and we want to fix it quick. MOU is a great way to do that, but okay, just making sure.
I think the position from SJEA is that all MOUs at this point, they want all of them to be ratified every time.
And that's SJEA's right to do that. Just want to make sure we all on this side understand the process moving forward about
So
how you like it.
so we've had hurricane MOUs in the past. I mean, if that comes up, we'll have to send that out for ratification. Hopefully by then we're done with complete negotiations. Hopefully we're done with that process, but we would have to send that out for ratification as well.
Got it. Okay.
Unless I get different advice from FEA and the team wants to handle something differently, we can address that at the next session.
Understood.
And St. John's Tech and Evelyn Hamlin will be under that same process?
Well, didn't we roll them into the contract yet? Have we rolled them into the contract yet? Oh. Those need to be rolled into the contract. I mean, it has just been probably 10 years for St. John's Tech, at least. We should not have an MOU that continues, that's over that many
We were
years.
talking, this is only year 2.
This is year 2, correct.
So that's why we.
Correct. But if we're going to do those, then I would recommend that you guys bring those MOUs to the table at the next session so that we can sign off on those as well, so that people are, any MOU that's in there needs to be brought to the table so we can sign off on them. Sorry, Morgan, I'm not trying to interrupt and to take over. Right. I mean, ultimately, some of those we believe should be in the contract no matter what. I mean, it's just been too long that they've been sitting out there. But I would say that those should be brought to the table. If I was on management side, I would bring every MOU possible at the next session so that we can get those signed and we can just get down to the meat of it, which would be compensation, and hopefully settle that sooner than later.
And the difference here is that these are continuation of one that we've signed in the past, not a new one. And so that's why it was okay for us to be
I
able to
understand
do
that.
right?
I
So
just
we
have a
can-
different position.
No, I know.
Yeah,
And we're trying to have our folks continue on, get paid in a timely fashion. They're helping us. They're doing a great job. So we need to pay them as soon as we can. And this is a perfect situation. where
I
we can
will,
just
I will
sign
advise
off.
with our bargaining specialist and ask her
Yeah.
on the position of that before we come back to the
But
next
if-
session. If something changes
Sure.
and the team takes a different avenue, but I will talk to my colleague that's the bargaining specialist to see what her position is on something that has been a continuation and what she believes.
So if St. John's Tech and Evelyn Hamlin were in the contract, you'd sign this today?
I don't think that's what,
TAing and ratifying are two different
Yes.
things.
Yeah,
we can TA on this today, but it's not going to be,
But it, what, like, it's
Implemented
one or
until
the
we
other, like you
ratify.
can't,
right. I mean, but typically St. John's Tech and Evelyn Hamlin aren't, well, let's take Evelyn Hamlin out of the picture, right? St. John's Tech isn't usually paid they're paid by semester though,
Mhm.
correct? Me if I'm wrong. Isn't it paid by semester? Twice a year.
twice a year.
Twice a year. And then Evelyn Hamlin, probably the same thing, twice a year. So hopefully by that time, we'll have everything finished and they'll be paid in a timely manner. So it's a little bit different. I mean, yes, oh yes. I mean, I would agree that should be in the contract under supplements for sure. But
Right.
I'm not gonna agree
Fill this out
that,
to change.
yeah.
What's that? Fill this out to change. There's just a word change on this one.
You talking about on number 5?
Yeah.
Just deleting 2 cover classes?
yes.
That's the only change I think there was. Did you,
Pull it from tomorrow.
did you have anything else before
We'll go on.
we jump on?
We do not.
Okay.
Can, the suggest folks can go ahead and go.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Shar, Martha, Jose, Alan, thank you. You guys can go,
Here,
or you can stay and listen.
quickly. She just needs to cross. I just
Yeah.
crossed out.
Yeah, that's it.
Same thing.
So we'll just have to pull it.
There's a little bit difference though, on that.
You've been promoted.
Is that how it happens? The quicker you move up the front. You should have put these out. And we'll try about 10. They're like potato chips.
We will have questions.
Yeah, so before we get into Article 6, we just wanted to say that we will have questions about the budget when we get into compensation. We're just saving our questions and wanting to roll
Formulating.
over the information for a bit, so.
Understand.
Yeah.
So the way that we tried to go about this, where are we on time too, by the way?
You don't have a set. time,
Okay.
so.
Was, obviously there was a lot of information passed over.
Yes.
We tried to talk through as much of it as we could. We kind of hit a stopping point and thought maybe the best use of our time today would be to ask some of the questions that we have.
Okay.
Get your feedback, and then that would give us what we need to maybe come back with something more formal at a next session. So that's what we tried to focus in on there, was coming up with any questions that we needed to ask. And so I'll try to go through them each. It's only a few.
Okay.
And if I miss any, I'm sure my colleagues will catch them. So I'm going to start with item C on, that's all Article 6. So that's the language about striking every effort will be made to schedule. The question that we just had is, has there, to your knowledge, been any issues with this not being adhered to in the past? Or is this just a proposed change?
This is a proposed change. I don't have specific knowledge. Does anyone on my team?
I mean, I think part of it as well is that in elementary especially, they don't get 30 minutes. They walk their kids to lunch. They got to pick their kids up by the time they have about 20 minutes. I would assume that's possibly most of the issue with elementary. Michelle, do you have other questions in that?
I think this is just speaking to that it will occur when the cafeteria is open.
So would you say that this is primarily an issue in the elementary school setting? Or
Yes.
Well, a person shouldn't have their lunch at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and school leaves at 4 o'clock and the cafeteria is not open anymore.
Where does that happen?
We
I don't know if that's
we
the
don't
case.
have any current
Specific.
issues, specific
So
issues.
we were trying to discuss where we thought you were going, and we couldn't find a scenario where that, exactly what you said, Tammy, would happen.
Right. So to that argument, if you don't have any scenarios where that's happening, why can you not just take out the every effort will be made? And
I was
just leave
talking
it
about
at-
during the cafeteria
Right.
time, will occur during the time cafeteria is serving lunch.
So instead of it saying that every effort will be made to schedule the lunch period, when the cafeteria is serving lunch, we're just saying that let's just make the statement that their lunch will be during when the cafeteria is serving lunch.
I think the reason we were asking for some of the clarification is if it's not a reported issue on your end, meaning you don't have like a lot of folks complaining, we were just trying to understand this because I don't know, I mean, we haven't in the short period of time we had been able to reach out and look at whether or not there are instances where lunches have not been able to happen during that because despite every effort being made to do so for one reason or another, it was necessary for administration to work with the teacher to have it outside of that.
Right.
So before stripping away that every effort will be made, what we were trying to find out is this like a bubbling up issue somewhere that we need to look at before we propose some language back? So it's not a argument back to you. It really, it was just so that we are doing our analysis to see if this was a specific area we should look at. Okay. I think next question was on, and really the questions, not like we're going to skip over E. It doesn't mean we don't have a response to E. It just means we don't need to clarify.
You want more clarification before you come back with your responses. I get it.
Yes. Okay. So K. And really want to confirm that we heard the explanation for K right, was that SJEA wanted to make sure that their employees were paid for the time that they were required to attend in service. And so what we wanted to verify with you is that that's at least, it's already happening. If any employee is required to attend, instructional staff member is required to attend in-service sessions outside of their regular work hours, they are paid for it. Per the contract. If it's required, if it's recommended and they attend to it outside of the regular work hours, then it's $20 per hour. And if it's not recommended, if it's just purely voluntary. And so the interpretation of this is, if I'm reading this right, and this is what I want to clarify your intent, is that in-service should not happen outside of regular work hours at any time. Because that would clash with another article in the contract that does allow in-service to occur outside of regular hours and it's paid. So that's why we're
No, I know
asking.
in our discussions, we were talking about the accreditation piece more than the in-service piece. So if you've identified as an administrator, someone in your building needs something and you're going to require them to attend it, or to, take a class or take an assessment, they have to pass the DOE certification, something. That it's implied that it's during their workday or they'll be paid because that's covered under another part in the contract.
Right.
Yeah.
We just wanted to
Clean
make
up.
sure it was explicit. But yeah, if you
Is-
want to show us,
No, I'm going to check. So
Okay.
is it more about making sure that required in-service is paid, or more about making sure that required in-service or accreditation only occurs during regular work hours? Is it the second one?
Not all of it, just this specific occurs during work hours, because it's already, like you said, it's already covered that if it's outside of work hours.
the accreditation piece.
I mean, this specifically addresses accreditation
So
or
just,
minimum education standards.
So when we open up a contract, when we only bring a few to the table, we try to take that opportunity to clean up all the language in that article.
Right.
So if anyone on our team is like, well, wait, what does this mean? What does that mean? Does this mean this? Does this mean that? We think we're pretty well versed in it. If we're having questions, let's make sure the implications are fully stated. It's
Right.
just like you said in the first page, it's just a cleanup. It's not an issue
so this,
specific.
I'm glad we asked. So your interpretation of K is that this is only in the context of accreditation and not when it's otherwise required in-service activity.
Correct.
Okay. We'll look at that in that context.
And it could just be that it needs to be clean,
Mhm.
better written as well.
Because it mentions in-service points being awarded.
Right.
It speaks to minimal educational standards required by law, which could be interpreted as meeting in-service requirements.
I understand.
And so
It may
that's-
just, it may be moot after we get through it, so.
Alright. On L, same question and then a little bit of feedback. Has there been any concerns at sites about administrators not doing what they can or making efforts to provide equitable assignments? And the reason I ask is this was one of, I don't want to say a formal proposal, but some language cleanup that
Mhm.
came to mind is taking that first sentence and having it read, the administration will try to make equitable assignments, or will try to make equitable assignments of supervisory duties. And so it's more of the affirmative, like they will try to do that, which I think is the same as they'll try to avoid making it inequitable. And so we were just turning it more from a negative to a positive, is they'll make that effort to do that. The reality is it just may be that for whatever reason, one teacher has more students or more classes in a
Mhm.
particular grade level, and it's not entirely equitable.
It
But
does happen. According to
Okay.
Michelle, it happens a lot.
Mhm.
in elementary context,
Predominantly.
Yeah.
okay.
So it does happen. So that's part of the reason why.
And in what, like, what's a typical scenario? Like bus duty assignments
Same
or
grade level
lunch?
gets bus student month after month after month.
The same team has morning and or afternoon duties instead of one or the other.
Multiple examples or
Oh, yes.
one school?
Multiple.
So there's no rotation. It's just third grade team, you're doing morning, afternoon.
Another example, if I may.
Yeah, it's helpful.
A lot of
Elementary
times-
teacher.
Yeah, a lot of times also, the younger the students are, the more you are supervising them. So for example, like
Bus pickup.
both,
Yeah.
yeah, third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers may be able to be in their classrooms during dismissal duties and working in their classrooms, whereas the younger grade level teachers are the ones that are walking
Welcome.
those younger students and waiting till they're all on the bus, and that could go until, who knows when.
The last parent gets there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me see what else. On R, kind of, again, global question as it relates to the flex time process, not
Mhm.
all of our, just the flex timing where it's, you know, these are the conditions and only are you allowed to use flex times under these scenarios. Has there been any issues that you've had with flex time getting denied or kind of overly intrusive questions being asked about why are you using flex time?
Yes.
Okay. Across like
I've
school
seen
levels?
it happen at multiple high schools that I've been at. I don't know, elementary people,
Yes.
yes.
Meaning more than just asking the questions, like legitimate personal appointments, whether something is or isn't legitimate. There's an inquiry of that.
Yes.
Yes.
Certain people can take flex time whenever they see fit, and other people are, you know, grilled and held to the wall about why they're taking flex time. So,
Do you know of any scenario, not obviously naming specifics, but where flex time has been denied? Like for reasons other than, you know, look, this isn't, you know, we really need teachers on campus today. This is going on. We cannot do it today. I think that's different than, I'm sorry, that's not really a legitimate personal appointment to me.
right.
I know it's just what, if
Yeah.
you've heard of that, we're just trying to kind of get to the root.
I don't have any off the top of my head, but I
Okay.
do know that there are certain people who they are asked you know,
Your colleagues are shaking their head yes behind you, by the way.
yes.
Okay.
So,
So can I ask a question? Is there some sort of science behind the 180 minutes, or is that just?
we
because it was in a
figured
different contract?
180 minutes equaled how many planning periods? I can't remember.
So it's just 3 hours. for
3
them. I'm
hours.
just looking at some other contracts just to get some, you know, obviously that's
Right.
a
That was a starting point.
starting point.
And then this was my own note. When you strike the language through there about authorized to leave their assigned school absent from duty during the professional workday, are you intending flex time to only apply to non-student scheduled time or just the workday?
Flex can only be done
That's what
during
you're not
non-student
trying to make it
contact.
outside of
Correct.
okay.
Yes.
Just clarification.
Yeah.
And then this on my next note on 5C, right below that 180-minute paragraph.
Mhm.
So right now, this language that's been struck, I think clarifies that this idea of there being an agreement of modifications to the work week
Mhm.
is in the context of flex time. If you strike that language, it seems to be housed as its own standalone. If there's an adjustment to the work week, it must be mutually agreed on. And so I think what our question was is it intended to be more broad in that sense, or is it really just supposed to be a modifier of the flex time language? Because right now I read that where it falls in this with all the strike throughs, that anytime a principal wants to adjust the work week, it's got to be a mutual agreement.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Versus like if it's a flex time, like, hey, if you're gonna flex 30 minutes now and you're gonna make it up, I need you to come in earlier that day to make up that flex time down the line during that 2 week. That's a modification that could be agreed to,
Right.
which falls under a flex time. But did you intend it to be limited to flex time or all time?
We were discussing the two separate scenarios of testing in high schools.
Yes.
Everyone needs to come in and do this, as well as if there's a teacher that you agree, the speech teacher, instead of everyone starting at 8 o'clock, but the speech teacher who doesn't see kids till 9 o'clock can start at 8:15. So it was not our
Right.
intention to make that under there, so that probably.
Correct. Yeah.
It's its
Needs
own.
to-
Okay.
Yeah. We probably need to.
Yeah.
It read like it was its own, but it fell within
Yes.
flexible.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the only other note I have was just to clarify the MOU, which we've done. So Wayne, I don't know if you had any other questions. If you went through and made notes that I skipped over, that's what I had on mine.
Okay.
Kathy, anything? Mike?
So I think those were all the clarification questions we had.
Okay.
So I think in terms of where we go from here.
Schedule some dates.
Yes. Did we want to TA the MOU or hanging on to it?
I mean, it would, but presumably it goes, or it would still go to the board if it was TA'd, but if it's not going to be ratified.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. That doesn't make any sense to me. We TA stuff all the time.
Do you not?
We sign things all the time.
That's what I-
And then I hold on to them and then it all goes
Correct.
to the board
And
As a
it's-
packet.
Okay.
after.
Yes,
well, Now it would be after ratification.
yes.
The MOU that was signed with SJECSD, I would not normally bring it to the board until after ratification. I would just have a mutual agreement with Tammy, obviously with the board understanding that we're putting this into place today because of the critical need of putting into place today.
Okay.
And then I would never bring it in front of the board until after it was actually ratified, so it doesn't look like one
Yes,
thing is
I got
happening.
yes, that's my preferable way.
In front of the other. So same thing, Terry, because in full book, we're signing articles.
Mhm.
Hopefully, every time we meet, we're trying to push through the
Yep.
contract and we're TAing and I just put them in a folder and so does SJEA and SJECSD and we hold them all and then it all gets ratified at once.
That is correct.
And my apologies, I should have
Just making
had
sure.
that
So let's be
conversation.
clear,
prior.
Your process.
I don't, if
So
you,
we are
Different strokes for different
We're
folks
waiving
sometimes.
ratification on this one so that we can get it on the board packet tomorrow to be approved so we can pay our folks now
If-
instead
And
of waiting.
And
So-
Brendan, I would say, and again, this might be some knowledge that you have in France, your private district. What I'm saying is that, I normally would not even bring this to the board. We would just pay it. We would sign it. And then I'd say to Tim, we're gonna go ahead and move forward with this because we really don't think this would be a piece that SJECSD would
vote now.
have an issue
Right.
with, and we're just gonna move it right along, and I'd make sure the board would know, and the only time the board would see it would be once it's ratified and we bring everything to the.
However you guys
Would
want
you
to
pay
handle it.
them retro or would you pay them along the way to make sure they're getting the
Along
pay?
the
Okay,
We need to make sure they get paid.
Yeah,
So
it's a good faith agreement that it will get ratified and that we will bring it to the
Yes.
board at a later date. It's like known for time.
So if the MOU were executed by both chief bargainers today for SJEA, it would go on the agenda tomorrow?
No.
Doesn't
No, you just
doesn't
move
have to.
forward with pay.
If it is agreed to now, SJEA is saying no,
No,
we're not agreeing to that.
Understand, but
Yes,
that's,
yes.
I'm just trying to make.
Past
that-
practice has, with the
Correct,
St. Louis
Kathy.
County School District has been,
That's what I thought you did, but I wasn't 100% sure.
But-
If you want to share with the board that you're doing this and be upfront, I don't care how you do it. Let's just get suggested people paid, but this will be a part of my ratification packet when we settle
And then
compensation.
the board would do it after that.
Yes.
time, Which is the same process for SJEA. So we're, and again.
Yes.
We did not have
Does
this
that make
discussion,
sense?
but we'll do it
Got
now.
it?
It's okay. If the MOU is executed, it would be acted on, but it would still have, understandably go through SJEA and then at a later point, the board.
But just for clarification, I thought we did agree on
Did it agree on
it. We
what?
did agree on.
The MOU as written? Yes. We're gonna TA it, right?
Love to
Okay.
she's agreeing to pay TA, but she's not allowing you to go ahead and start paying our teachers. She would prefer that it get ratified before we actually take action.
You got it, Kathy.
That's the clarification that I
Thank
was
you.
trying to get to, and you've made that.
All right, so I'll give you,
Thank you.
I think we normally do 4, right?
Yeah, I get one usually, just so
Okay.
I can keep it in my packet. And Jen usually gets one
Well,
So I'm writing TA.
that was just.
on the bottom right down here. It doesn't matter. I mean, I can keep the originals. It's always good for me to have the original.
No, you'll have one, I'm saying more.
Oh, yeah, it's up to you, Morgan. What do you want?
If I want one. Oh, no, Jen can take it. What is the date today?
The
7th.
I don't even know what day it is.
Well, I have-
Until I
keep
start
them at
writing the date
office.
every day on the board, I don't know what the date is.
I have them at my house, not my house, at my office. Not in my house. I ain't keeping any of that in my house.
Sure, Jeff.
You explained that a lot more eloquently than I did, Kathy, and thank you. I appreciate that.
You were stuck in the weeds in that one.
I do have a question for you then, Kathy, about a payroll thing. Thanks. I'll take one.
It is a
Oh,
boring-
then I'll take
it is a
one.
boring question.
Gracias.
Let's talk payroll.
Oh, it's a,
If there's a
So,
party
are we gonna look at
involved,
the-
it's a very serious question.
Yeah, states, sorry.
I agree. Yeah. You gotta spill your pen. Still alive.
So there'll be separate timing moving forward.
yes, sir.
When you're talking dates, are you talking suggest?
No.
SJEA?
Just SJEA.
You're not part of the scheduling?
I am with SJEA. So Jessica's already scheduled for the 16th.
I'm pulling it up.
I don't think, you're not coming to that one, are you? Are you coming to Suggespa too? I didn't think so.
21st,
21st.
we see today. 21st.
August?
That's what it feels like.
So.
We're
no,
August 16th,
August.
5:30, Brendan. Yeah.
Before you confirm anything, let me pull here.
Here, 21st, here.
Got it.
Yep. 5 o'clock,
That's
Mark, you
Suggespa.
SJEA.
Hold their horses too on that.
Just was the 16th
Let
at
me make sure.
5:30 at Fulton.
Let me pull it.
So SJA.
No, I've been connected to St. John's Guest for
Copy, you good?
10 years.
21st?
August 16th.
Whenever you need me.
Here.
So I have the 6th
16th is, yeah.
Figuring out right
at 5:30, Suggespa. And now the 21st. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Can we do one more? I think we're best if we can try to get, because I've got Flagler bargaining going on.
So
I
5
got
o'clock.
FSDB bargaining going on.
So, I mean, let's try to do it like every couple of weeks, right? So we get them out.
We're doing 5, I feel like 5:30 for us high school teachers is.
Oh, it would have to be.
Yeah, we don't get done till 4
Right.
and then travel time. And so can we do 5:30 if it's not a Wednesday? So,
On
yeah, on the 21st,
21st,
it's going to need to be
5:30.
5:30 on the
Yeah.
21st.
You want to suggest on 30th at 5:30? Yes. Yes. You want to move to Wednesdays afterwards? Make it easier?
Wednesdays are great. It makes it a little bit easier. We get out a
Anybody
little
object to
earlier.
that?
Can't take the
Wednesdays?
30th, I just took it.
There's early release Wednesdays, so they, teachers can get here a little later.
As long as it's,
Can you hear any of
depends
this?
on the date.
So,
The memos you send out then should be interesting if you get here.
that's Suggespa here.
That's great.
And then, no, August 30th is also Suggespa,
We just took your Wednesday.
and
Sorry.
that's Fullerwood, 5:30 again.
We just took the 30th.
So we can go
So
to 6.
now
So you can go the September
Wayne's
6th.
going to tell you what the
September 6th.
SJEA is.
So the 21st, yep, here,
5:30.
5:30. And then we're looking at Wednesday, the 6th of September.
Okay.
Anybody else? Look,
Before you say-
go a little earlier. We'll go at 5 o'clock those days. Wednesday, the 6th of December, September.
Please,
Please
December.
not December.
Can we do then the 20th, just to put it in there? For SJEA? Let's put them in the calendar, otherwise I get filled up. I'm a busy woman.
How about you?
Unless you think we'll be finished by the 6th.
I think we should be safe and do the 20th, just to.
That would be great.
Okay, so the 6th and the 20th.
21st, yeah.
Week. No, 6th and the 20th of, yeah.
September 6th,
September.
September 20th.
So
we
September
have-
6th is at 5
September date.
at full, here at Full Wage.
We may have to pick a different
Just
date.
check the,
And September 20th.
fill us
Let me
the,
make sure that
Just come with all the
available
money.
here.
before you say yes.
Okay, so all here.
Let me check the 20th.
We can send it. I can send it.
You know,
What's that?
I can send
You
it.
don't know.
Okay.
you said September.
Hey,
20th.
I'm working on a Saturday. I don't have a problem with that. Then we have all day.
Somehow I'm available all 3 of those days.
With the Irish.
Glad we got you.
Perfect. Okay, so just to clarify for
FCA hasn't
everyone,
gotten you, only on the 23rd. 24th, right?
SJEA is meeting on the August 21st at 5:30.
Yep.
September 6th at 5 and September 20th at 5, all in this here at Fullerwood. All right.
Did
There
you
was a
want
lot
to
of
clarify
dates
your
being thrown
other
around.
dates?
I wanted to
Thank
make
you
sure.
for
Yes,
Clarify
so
your
JESPA is August 16th at 5:30 and August 30th at 5:30.
Okay.
And then we will go from there. And if you guys have any other MOUs, if we could bring those, whatever, I know SJESPA doesn't have any, but I think SJEA may have other MOUs. And will we have an insurance presentation anytime? So that we have an idea? I'm just trying to think ahead, trying to get all this done so we can have a,
Insurance to both groups or?
that might be good to have both groups. I like to do it both, so I'm gonna have to listen to it twice.
So
Yeah.
you want to try to move one of your dates to coincide with the other dates so we could do the
Well, we
insurance?
wanted the 30th. Are you guys gonna be ready by the 30th? No. Jay's like, no. Oh, well, there we go.
Okay. I mean, it won't take long, so we could take a few minutes. Could we take a few minutes of the beginning? Would you be ready by the 6th?
6th of September?
Yes.
Okay, and so we'll just do an insurance presentation. I'll invite SJESPA to come.
Brilliant.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Thank you.